أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وآله الطاهرين. Dear sisters and brothers in Iman, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We are in the last days of the month of Ramadan, a month which is not only for spiritual development but also has a distinct social dimension. In the words of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salatu was-salam, Almighty Allah has indeed made fasting an obligation so that the rich and the poor can be equal, in the sense that if the rich do not feel the pain of the hunger, he would not be kind to the poor, because whenever the wealthy wishes for something, he is capable of getting it. This way the well-off will be able to relate to the suffering of the less fortunate and be charitable towards them. For Eid al-Fitr, which is just around the corner, we normally gather in mosques for special prayers and festivities. Unfortunately, because of the COVID-19, we wouldn't be able to celebrate together. However, I hope you will join me online from home for Salatul Eid and the khutbah. But before we perform Salatul Eid, we are required to pay Zakatul Fitr. It's the most common obligatory charity upon Muslims to help those in need, especially on the day of Eid al-Fitr. So let's take a deeper look at this concept. Zakatul Fitr is wajib on everyone who is baligh and is mentally sane. Zakatul Fitr has to be paid on behalf of yourself as the head of the family and all your dependents. So who are your dependents? Those whose maintenance is a duty upon you, such as your wife and children and parents, as well as those whose maintenance is not religiously a duty upon you, but you provide for them regularly. This is the case regardless of whether they reside with you or not, they are baligh or not, whether they are Muslim or not. This also includes any temporary guests who are staying with you from before the sunset of Eve of Eid al-Fitr. If Zakatul Fitr is paid for you by someone else, then it is not wajib upon you to pay on behalf of yourself again. For example, if you are financially independent and live separately, but your father pays your fitrah, or your host pays your fitrah while you are an overnight guest at their home, in these cases, you don't have to pay fitrah again. Zakatul Fitr is also not wajib for an unborn baby or a baby born after the Maghrib of the Eve of Eid. What exactly is Zakatul Fitr and how much should you pay? It is to be paid to the recipient in form of staple foods such as flour, rice or barley. Note that different regions and cultures have different staple foods. The recipient must receive 3 kilograms per person in your household. So if you have 5 people in your circle, then you will have to pay 15 kilograms of flour or rice. Note that I mentioned earlier that the recipient must receive fitrah in kind, in form of the staple food. You can send money to an organization or an individual who will then have to buy the items and pass it on to the deserving people. Consult your local center or visit Shia charity websites offering fitrah services to determine how much you need to pay. This will vary depending on the region's prices of staple goods. For Canada, the amount for this year is set at $10 per person. Where do we pay fitrah? Zakatul Fitr should be given to Shia Isna Ashari who are less fortunate and financially struggling. If you already know of deserving Shia Isna Ashari in your city, then according to Ayatollah Sistani, the Zakatul Fitr should not be sent out to other cities. This is based on Ihtiyati Wajib. However, if a person is known to be drunkard or openly commits sins, then he would be the least qualified recipient of Zakatul Fitr. Preference should be given to those who are practicing. Additionally, your deserving needy relatives have preference over the other deserving people. A further note, The Sadat, the descendants from the family of the Prophet, cannot be recipient of fitrah from non-Sadat. However, non-Sadat can be recipients of fitrah from Sadat individuals. When should you pay the fitrah? Zakatul fitrah becomes wajib at the beginning of the eve of Eid al-Fitr, so the night before Eid. Those who will perform Salatul Eid must pay the fitrah before the Salatul Eid. Those who will not be doing the Salatul Eid must pay the fitrah before the Zuhr of the day of Eid. Traditionally, community members contribute their fitrah at their local mosque, either the night before or right before Eid Salat. However, with mosques closed down around the world, this isn't possible. There have been many questions revolving around the permissibility of paying fitrah in advance or online. In regards to paying in advance, you may do so, but with the niyat, the intention should be of giving a loan to the deserving person, and then change the niyat on the eve of Eid that your loan is now to be considered as fitrah. Moreover, when paying electronically to your center or a charitable organization, you will have to have that niyat of the loan as mentioned earlier. But when you change your niyat to fitrah, your intention should also be that the organization is your wakil, your agent, to receive this fitrah money, and that they will then use these funds as soon as possible in order to distribute it among deserving people in the form of staple goods. If a person delayed paying the zakatul fitrah till after Eid prayers or after Zuhr of that day, they will have to pay with the niyat of qurbatan ilallah without saying ada or qada. Finally, remember the message behind zakatul fitrah. While helping others with their basic needs is important, there is a larger message. The same way your parents give you coins as a child to put inside donation box to nurture your sense of giving, Allah has been putting coins in our hands through His blessings and is teaching us to share it with others. Through this gesture of zakatul fitrah, He hopes that we will continue this practice of charity. Let me end with the ayat from Surah Baqarah, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the parable of those who spend their wealth for the sake of Allah is as the parable of a grain growing 7 years. In every year there are 100 grains, and Allah multiplies for whom He pleases. Allah is ample giving and all-knowing. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all. Be safe, inshallah. Have a good celebration of Eid al-Fitr. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.